All right, hopefully I'm in this picture. If not, that's probably
You should
okay.
be, you should be.
How are you doing today, Miss Brunk?
I'm good. I'm good. Fill out my lesson plans.
Okay. Last week we were looking at evaluating expressions by substituting the value of a variable, and your students went from 64% to 91%. So very nice job with that.
Thank you.
That was. I mean, that's a lot of growth. Today I really want to jump into that standard 6.EE.2. I know it's a long standard. If we're going to just read through it, write, read, and evaluate expressions in which letters stand for numbers. Write expressions that record operations with numbers and the letters standing for numbers. For example, express the calculation, subtract y from 5 as 5 minus y. Identify parts of an expression using mathematical terms, sum, term, difference, product, factor, quote, and so on and so forth. View one or more parts of the expression as a single entity. For factor, quotient, coefficient. View one or more parts as an expression as a single entity. So you're going to see something like 2 and then 8 plus 7 in parentheses, so the multiplication piece with that. Evaluate expressions and specific values of their variables, include expressions that arise from formulas used in real-world problems. So it's a very long standard, but the piece we really want to focus on, just kind of to summarize it, is we're going to stick with, we're sticking with expressions and equations, specifically writing expressions from verbal descriptions and writing verbal descriptions from written expressions.
That's right.
Okay? So that's a lot to interpret on that big old standard.
So we're just lifting out that important part. Yes.
Take a minute and just kind of in your head, or even verbalize, what students should be able to know to be able to master, and what they need to show to be able to master that standard.
So, it's going to be really important for students to be able to identify or know that vocabulary.
Okay.
I think it laid it out there. We need to know sum, difference, product, and quotient. It's going to be very, very important. And what other words or terminology or math vocabulary is going to need, what that I'm going to have to do those particular operations. So one of the things they're going to have to know and do is know what the vocabulary is and when do I do those particular operations. And then they need to be able to transfer that from written to the verbal, and then vice versa. If it's written down verbally, then how does it look in written form?
So let's take a second now. We've got the chart paper behind. Maybe chart some things up there that students are going to have to know and show in order to meet on that reteach that we're going to talk about.
Okay. On reteach, have to know. So they have to know the written form. Form 2, verbal. I guess that's a show.
Say written, what's that say up there? Written
Written form
Oh, all
to
right.
the verbal form.
To the verbal form, okay, and then vice versa, right?
And then vice versa, so and they'll have to be able to show that.
What's that look like? Give me an example if they're going to show.
So if it says 3 multiply, or 3, let's say 3 groups, because they confuse this one a lot with division. 3 groups of W equals 3W.
Okay.
A lot of times they'll confuse that one, 3 divided by W. So that's written form. So I just did verbal form to written. So I just did the opposite.
Okay.
So then the other would be the opposite, as we would want the.
So just in your chart, we know everything is vice versa. So whatever you put up there is also the opposite. So you don't have to put it all up there. We'll understand that everything is vice versa. And then on the show side, then
they have to actually do it. They actually have to do it, and then not only do they have to do it, they're gonna. So let's say they're gonna identify the operation.
Okay.
And they're gonna do that by circling. And then actually, we're going now to the dot for multiplication.
And you had mentioned vocabulary. Where does the vocabulary come in on all that?
Oh, yes. So they're gonna have to know the vocabulary, and it came directly some, difference. Product, and it came directly from the standard itself and quotient. And not only do they have to know these, but they have to know in scenarios that mean these particular operations.
Okay.
So here, groups of means product.
Okay. And so thinking back through this extremely long standard, does everything up there align with that standard?
Yeah, it comes straight from the standard.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's take a look at some of the student work that you brought. And we may be adding some more to this after we look at some of the student work, but let's take a look first at some high-level student work. How does the student exemplar compare with the exemplar that maybe you've got up here for your knowledge show?
Well, when we're going from the verbal form to the written, I think the high students just were able to really visualize it, and they nailed it. Whereas when we went from the high to the medium, they had some issues in order. For instance, it said C added to 45. Well, clearly they knew that the associative property, it doesn't matter which order I add it, but they didn't add it in the order it was communicated.
Okay.
So I need to firm up some of that.
So that's with your high medium kids. What about your
My
just high, your
struggling-
super high
My
ones?
super high?
Did you see any gaps in what they were
No.
doing? No, they were pretty much on
No, but noticing I did have, when they went from the written form to the verbal form, is that hardly any of them wrote it the exact same way. And they were all correct.
it. Okay, so
So-
there's more than one way to do it.
Mhm.
They're just not doing it the same way.
Right.
Which is probably a good thing.
Which is great. It's
right?
great autonomy and great way to show that there are different ways to write, divide, multiply.
So then you said, so you have yours grouped high, medium, and then low. So with your high, medium kids,
Mm-hmm.
what's the gap you're seeing there?
Well,
You had mentioned it. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to clarify the high before we went to the high, medium. You had started with, like if they took C added to 45.
yeah, they, theirs was more, the medium, their struggle was more with, order, the order that it came in.
Okay. So with that,
So the C added to wasn't an issue, but when it was K less than 24, and they put K minus 24 when it should be 24 minus K, that's when it became the wrong answer.
so is it an order of operation problem, or is it a vocabulary problem, or both?
It's both. It's definitely vocabulary and paying attention to which is coming first.
Okay. What about our low kids? Where is there? I mean, obviously there's probably going to be multiple gaps there. What are you seeing with our just low kids?
Well, quite honestly, the low kids that I have right now fall under SPED or ESL. So, not that that's a good thing, it's just a noticing. So they had the same struggles as the medium kids as far as the order in which something takes place. 24 minus K is not the same as K minus 24. And then they really struggled with vocabulary.
Okay.
So vocabulary is going to be something I need to hit on.
Give me an example of some of the struggles you're seeing with vocabulary.
The quotient of 13 and Z was they just didn't know what to do with that.
So
like, it's
quotient's
left
just a
like,
word they have no idea.
just, yeah, just have no idea what to do with that. And then, yeah, so they didn't know how to express that. They didn't know how to, when it was written down 9 over D, they didn't even know how to write that. They didn't even write 9 divided by D.
Okay.
So they just didn't even know what to do, but the vice versa way either. So they had trouble both ways. So some more exposure to that.
Okay. So if I'm hearing you right, the key areas that we need to reteach are going to be knowing the order of operation, either verbal or written, and then the vocabulary. So let's go ahead and write that down. That's I mean, you can write it on there. You can write it on your sheet.
Oh, okay.
But just we're gonna know.
Why
So
don't I
that's
do
our
that?
our reteach is gonna be around knowing the operation, either verbal or written,
Okay.
and including vocabulary.
Okay. I'll just add it to my lesson plans.
So you described the gap as really not being able to follow the sequence in the order of operation, and then the vocabulary, probably for most of your kids. Only the high kids weren't struggling in those two areas, is what it sounded like. But your high, medium, all the way down through the low, those are two key areas that we're seeing. So if we're writing down on here, what's our highest leverage action piece for the reteach? What do you think that's going to be?
I think it's going to be vocabulary.
Okay, let's write that up there. Just as our kids have to know that, and you've already got it, so maybe let's just circle in that piece right there.
Okay.
That's sum, difference, product, quotient. Is there other vocabulary associated with that?
Yes. Vocab. What I'm envisioning is an anchor chart where we go back and revisit the worksheet we just did, where they've already circled,
Okay.
where it doesn't necessarily expressly say divided by, where it says groups of, less than, added to, the difference of, and then we write those particular words under sum, difference, quotient, product. And then we'll just keep that as a living, breathing document, put it over to the side, and as we encounter more words that mean those operations, we can add it to that.
Okay.
And that's something that they can add in their math notebook as well.
So, as you think about your reteach structure, are you thinking modeling or guided discourse?
Modeling to begin with.
Okay.
So like an I do first, and then to a we do.
Okay. And so if we're talking about the modeling component with that, think about some questions you're going to ask students. So maybe start jotting some of those down. What are some questions, some maybe exemplar type questions to raise that level of those kids that you're going to be asking, and then some exemplar responses that you're going to be looking for within that?
One of the, as I'd like to kind of bring them out of just retrieval into comprehension,
Okay.
I'd kind of like them to look at a couple addition problems and a couple multiplication problems at the same time.
Okay.
And since it was kind of an aha when I saw that they were expressed differently by those higher kids, and I could even use theirs, but have the kids make a connection between the two. They gave this.
So you could do a show call as well.
Okay.
Go from a modeling to a show call, or you're wanting to do both then, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I guess I could.
Okay.
But-
So trying to get those conceptual misunderstandings out of the way, maybe hit from both sides. So I'm okay with that. I mean, typically we choose one or the other, but I mean, I'm really okay with you starting with a model and shifting, and because you're right around that 50 percentile, which we kind of base it on. Below 50 we model, above 50 we guided discourse. You're right around that area, so I'm really okay with doing both,
Okay.
as long as it's kind of a quick hit model, and then hit those good questions, but then go into the show call.
And I just feel like if those kids make those connections, that there's certain things that the ones that have a product have in
Right.
common, and the certain thing that these have in common,
Okay.
especially the quotion one, I think will be very
So,
important.
so if we're planning the model, though, let's think specifically around some questions you want to ask.
Okay. Let's see. Well, when I model, I might myself give more than one answer.
Okay. Well, give me a question that you're going to ask associated with.
What would be the best answer?
Okay. So you've got a problem up there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what is the best? So you are doing a show call then, right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you're not modeling.
Okay. So if I model, if I did model, I would.
Like I said, I'm okay either way because you're
Uh-huh.
right in the middle. We just need to set one here, like
Okay.
what it's going to look
I
like.
think I like the show call. I think that's going to make them. I think they're ready to dig deeper
Okay.
as far as where they fell.
So you're pretty confident you can catch them up with a show call.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go with it then. So we're going to go show call. So we still need some specific answers we want, or some specific questions. So if we're going guided discourse, then we're going to select a student work, like a high level student work to go with. Possibly maybe a lower level student work then. So you're going to go with like, what do you notice? Like, so what was the specific one?
Well, if I was comparing two, describe the relationship between.
Okay.
I like that one.
All right. Anything else?
Even, just tell me more, elaborate, or explain the ways in which they're similar.
And how are you going to monitor those two pieces?
Well, one of the things we've been really working on in our classroom is that response chaining,
Okay.
where one student builds their response off what the other student did, so it's not the teacher ping-ponging back and forth.
You can do that in small groups or whole class?
For now, for the reteach, it'll probably be the whole class.
Okay, so then my question is going to be, how do you know they all know? If you're going whole class and you're going the response rate.
Well, so my vision was that the first one or two would be model, and then the next one would be more independent, we do.
Okay.
And so then they would do it themselves, so that could either be with our whiteboards, which we use all the time.
Okay.
And
so
then,
hold up the whiteboard with it quick. Okay.
And so then that's the we do one,
Uh-huh.
and that's where we release them more to independence, and then we do it, show it,
Okay.
and then
And then
before release them to do the work.
Okay. Works for me. So let's formulate all the stuff you've just said,
Okay.
because we got to practice it. So
Uh-huh.
we're kind of out here. We got to pull this in, and we got to practice it. So think about maybe get your two pieces of student work that you want to use,
Okay.
and you're going to be the teacher, and I'm going to be the student.
Okay.
And so show me how you're going to make this work in the classroom, and then the specific questions and the way you're going to model whether I get it or not.
Okay. All right. Let me write this down. That one. 28.
And you can even use the bottom part of that chart if you want to
Okay.
display some things up there.
Okay. All right. And then I want to go into this one. Okay. That'll be number 3. 1. Nah, I better save that for number 2. It's
right.
a little more challenging.
Okay.
I'm going to make it easy for
So you said you're going to start with a quick model.
Uh-huh.
You're going to go into where I have to hold something up, per se, and then my practice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me. Yeah. All right. So let me make my 2 something different. I'll make that 2. Okay. There we go. So the first one that I'll do that was a misconception is so question number 1 would be 5. And then I'll have the kids write that.
Okay.
They're going to be in their mind as I'm thinking about, now how can I express that?
Okay.
And so, so as I'm thinking of ways to express it, one of the ways that we've been managing response rates is they're thinking. This is showing me that they're thinking. This is I've got an answer. This is I've got one way to show it. This is I've got two ways to show it.
Right.
So I'm kind of scanning the room to see.
I'm like, that's a must-in moment.
I'm busy.
So I'm kind of scanning the room to see who's with me.
Uh-huh.
Everyone should be here. Everybody should be thinking.
Right.
This means I've got an answer. So then I'll go ahead with my modeling and say, well, I know that it's not K take away,
Right.
do that whole thing. So I can write it in two different ways if I want to. I could write 5 take away K, or I can write the difference of 5 and K.
Okay.
All right? So
So this is that what you're going to model. So go ahead and model it.
Oh.
I want to see it.
Oh, okay. All right. So think about 5 minus K. Are you
Uh-huh.
thinking?
I'm thinking.
Well, let me see. All right. Oh, this means you have an answer. Good.
I got
All
an
right.
answer.
Got some answers, and
So
some
I'm
people.
going to be high this time. Next
You're
time
gonna
I
be
might be low.
Okay. So then you might have two different ways that you know how to show it.
Okay.
So then, all right. Some of you have more than two ways to know how to show it. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you one of the ways I'm thinking. I know that I'm going to start with 5.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to go backwards, whatever this variable is telling me. So I'm going to go back K. So I'm going to have to start with 5, and that was
Okay.
one of our big misconceptions, is some of us didn't start with 5. So that was one thing we really need to pay attention to. So I'm going to start with 5, and I'm going to say different ways I could say it. So a lot of you are thinking different ways you can say it.
Uh-huh.
So I could say 5 take away K, 5 minus K, okay? Or I can say the difference, and this is the harder one, the difference of 5 and K.
Oh, okay.
All right. Now I want everybody else to get your whiteboards out.
All right.
And we're gonna try this one, okay? Now don't do anything yet. Right now you're here with me. Everybody's thinking, all
Gotcha.
right? Everybody's thinking. And this one, oh, it didn't give me one. Oh, that was, okay. Oh, they both did the same. All right. 9 divided by D.
Yeah.
All right. Is everybody thinking? We're not using our whiteboards yet.
I'm
Got
thinking.
one way to show it?
Sorry about that.
Who's got more than one way to show it? Oh, there you go. All right,
Yeah.
got 2 ways to show it. Okay, who wants to share their first way? Okay. Oh,
9.
you know what? I should have given you this.
You're going to cold call me anyway, right? So 9 over D.
Uh-huh.
Okay, you already got that one.
Yeah, and so
All right.
you're going to do the verbal part.
The
so
verbal?
that's my bad.
Will be 9 divided by D, or the quotient of 9
Good.
and D.
D, and then the quotient. Nine and D. Good. Okay.
Very good.
All right. And now you guys are going to try this one all on your own, okay? And I'm not going to even say anything. And you can get started on your whiteboard as soon as you see it. Okay, I'm going to come walk around and watch the awesomeness and see how many different ways you guys can come up to write that operation, that particular operation. So when I walk around and monitor. Okay, why don't you share with a partner how they wrote one,
Okay.
that one. If you like how they wrote it, you can steal it. How many of you wrote at least one way? How many of you wrote 2 ways? How many of you wrote 3 ways? All right.
Well, I only
All
wrote
right.
2, so is there
That's
a third
great.
way?
Sure, we can write all kinds of different ways for them. T take away something, T minus, T take away, the difference of T and
29 less
29.
than.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
So great. So that's how we get rolling. And then I would just,
So you could even go to an aggressive monitoring piece when they go to individual. I don't even know that I would do the modeling if you're going to
Okay.
go ahead and do the just
Okay.
kind of the way it's set up. I don't know that it needs to be modeled, but if you're going to go student discourse, I might even start with displaying. Here is some correct answer. Start with a sample. Here's correct. Here's incorrect.
okay.
But what's the difference? And then get into here's some. I like the pinging with the whiteboards, and then maybe I'm going to come around and looking for this type
Okay.
of thing. But
Okay.
I think we could roll that way with it.
Okay.
But you might add that to your reteach, and you're reteaching this tomorrow, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm gonna
First hour.
I'll plan first hour. I'm there. I was planning on being there at that time, so that works out perfect for me.
Okay.
I appreciate this.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, that's a long standard, and I know we're gonna have to hit it for just a little bit, but
Yeah.
the fact that we've got off to such a good start by getting those kids to that 91 yesterday, I'm excited about that. So.
Okay. All right.
Well, thank you,
Let's
Ms.
get it to
Brown.
91 again.
All righty.
All right. Thanks.